I'll try to stay within my 5 minutes. The testimony you gave just a moment ago, Mr. Janica, is extremely important. And apparently that information is lost on the administration as it continues to push the USAID notion of cashing out, which would inevitably result in less cargo and less ships, and more expense to the total taxpayer. Is that correct? Is that the formula? Is that the equation? You reduce the cargo, you increase the cost of readiness to the U.S. military. And it's some $300 million or $200 million additional money. Is that correct?
If you were to do it all in a reserve fleet where you have a stationary fleet and you did not have the MSP, that would be an accurate assessment. However, that's one of the reasons why in the administration's proposal for fiscal year 16, it did include additional funding to offset the impact we believed it would have on the U.S. flag fleet.
Why don't we just put more cargo rather than more cash subsidy?
As I indicated in my testimony, Ranking Member Garamendii, it is cargo that is the reason why you have ships. And if there were cargo, the ships that either retired, scrapped, or reflagged would have remained under U.S. flag, in my opinion.
Let's go to why there may not be as much cargo. Talk to me about your enforcement powers to enforce the current laws on impelled cargo. Mr. Hunter and I have put together in the last 2 Coast Guard reauthorizations specific language that you will be given the power to enforce the impelled cargo. What is your position with regard to that requirement that is currently being discussed as we try to move towards a compromise with our Senate colleagues?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. I would note that we have a notice of proposed rulemaking that is undergoing interagency review and has been since March of this year. That notice of proposed rulemaking would address many of the issues of which you're referring to with regard to enforcement of cargo preference.
It's been underway since March. Why hasn't it been completed, and where is it stuck?
It's in the interagency review process, sir.
Meaning OMB?
Yes.
So it's stuck in OMB?
I won't say that it's stuck in OMB. It's still undergoing interagency review.
Very good. What is a sufficiently sized fleet? Mr. Berteau, what is a sufficiently sized fleet, and then what is the sufficient mariners to man and that fleet?
So we create our requirements not in terms of number of ships, but in terms of the requirements of what goes on those ships. So it's square footage, it's tonnage, it's container capacity, it's roll-on, roll-off capacity for across the entire fleet. Translating that into ship-by-ship numbers ends up with a range, if you will, of ships available to us. We haven't fully tested the limits of our current capacity and capability for quite a number of decades. I mean, the closest we've come was Desert Shield and Desert Storm, which I think was mentioned earlier as a high demand test for our overall capacity. We used a lot again at the beginning.
Were we able to meet the demand with domestic ships?
Today, I think we can probably meet the demand. We have not done a capability requirement study in about 6 years now. I think it's about time for us to undertake another one. A lot of the world has changed since 2009, the last time we did it. And I think it's time for us to update those requirements.
I would say it's high time.
I would agree with you.
It could be tomorrow that we need those ships.
It could well be.
And I think I just heard you say you don't know if you have sufficient ships.
I am insufficiently comfortable with with the notion.
So you are.
I am insufficiently comfortable with the statement that we have enough.
Insufficiently comfortable.
Yes.
Meaning you are uncomfortable.
It means I am uncomfortable.
In other words, you're not sure that you have sufficient ships to meet the demand that might occur.
I cannot sit here and tell you that we can meet the demand that might occur.
Mr. Janica, would you like to comment on that?
I can certainly give you some specific examples. With regard to Desert Storm and Desert Shield, about 23% of the actual cargo that DOD actually moved, it was forced to go on U.S. flag due to lack of availability. We also activated 76 out of the 96 ships that were in the Ready Reserve fleet at the time. I would note that 76, although it was not a full activation, that is 30 more ships than I currently have in my Ready Reserve Force fleet today of 46. Additionally, at that time, I had 199 ships under U.S. flag in the 1990 to 91 time frame. Today, that's 78. General McDew, who is the current commander of U.S. Transportation Command, is on record saying that if we were required to do the same amount of movement to be able to support Desert Shield, Desert Storm, we do not have the sea lift capacity today.
And that's why I'm uncomfortable.
Does that also mean the mariners as well as the ships?
It does. In fact, our Mariner pool today stands at about 11,300, and I believe that we're on the very hairy edge of being able, not only, we can certainly man all of the ships that we have currently in the Reserve Sea Lift fleet, however, we would not be able to support a rotation of those crew members after 3 to 4 month point.
And I would note that the two examples we use here, the Persian Gulf 1 in the early 1990s, Persian Gulf 2 in the early aughts, neither one extended over a period of time longer than 6 months. So the real problem could become with a second rotation beyond a 6-month period.
Mr. Chairman, just one final. For the record, could you provide the specifics in this discussion for both of you? Thank you. Yield back.
Mr. Kelly.